Good afternoon. I'm here this afternoon to show you some advancements that I've made with my Gauge 1 Class 33 loco. You may have seen one of my earlier videos, but if you hadn't, I found some controls that would fit the O-Gauge Lima Class 33, and I got in contact with the guy and asked if he could replicate the same thing to fit my Gauge 1. So after exchanging some photographs, measurements, and about a week later, here we go. It's not too easy to fit. I mean, you could have it made a bit smaller, but then it wouldn't fit in a proper way. It's because of the way that the inside of the Class 33 is constructed, because it's 3D printed, and you have to take out all of the support that's in there. When you get it, it's like a big honeycomb inside, and you literally have to rip that out to actually fit these controls. There's a little bit of work you have to do. Some you can do on the controls themselves, not too much because I don't want to lose a lot of the detail. And the other thing is the rest is on the inside cab of the Class 33. So all I'll do, I'll take this control out, and you can see what I've done. You can see, I'll firstly show you actually what it looks like once you've taken all of the support material. Anybody that knows anything about 3D printing, I mean, there are different types. The actual type the controls are made of is made by a resin which is cured by firing a laser, and it still does it in lines, but it tends to make it upside down underneath a build plate, whereas this cab is made in a different way by layering pieces of filament on top of each other, and it constructs. But because you've got this like large oval bit here, a big open space, if you were printing that, it would collapse because there's nothing to support it. So you have what you call support material on the inside, which will keep the shape. But of course, when we buy this, you then have to take all of that out in order to get to the inside. And of course, I've had to modify it again today to fit the controls. But I think really it's 100% worth doing. So I will show you how my original cab was before I done it like this one. So I've left one original at the moment and one I've modified to fit. Okay. So you'll see on the inside of this one, when you get down to the front, you have these kind of ridges that stick out a little bit. Obviously that's done in the design when it's built, but they need to be taken out. You can chop down your control panel to fit, but I worked it out, if you did that, you'd lose some of the controls, like the straight air brake and various other little bits and pieces. So what I used for that is I have a rotary tool here, and there we are. It's only a cheap one, but it's got loads of different bits that you can fit on. And I just marked out roughly with a pencil. I kind of held up the desk to it and then marked roughly with a pencil where I needed to start cutting out. So what I'll do is I'll show you one of the desks. It comes in a nice box. The other thing you get with this as well, which is really good, and that's just so detailed. I think this form of 3D printing is got to be the best. So they're the seats. It's even got the detail on the side because obviously they fold up. So yeah, that's the base and that's the back. So they will fix on to the bulkhead. You don't get the bulkheads with these, but I think they're quite easy to make. I'll probably make them either out of plasticard or foam board. If any of you use foam board, is a really good stuff to use, because if there's any detail, you can actually scribe the detail. So these are the 4 seats that you get, obviously 2 at each end. The detail I think is incredible on them. And they just feel really nice. There's hardly anything to do really, just a little trim down with a file down the edges, and really that's it. I'd always advise before painting anything like this is to give it a wash, a bit like making an Airfix model. Mix up a little detergent and give it a wash. If there's any, obviously the resin that this is made of, I'm not too sure. I've never used it. I've seen it done, but I've never used it. The other type of resin doesn't be too bad. You can just give it a wipe off with a damp cloth and then paint it. But yeah, I would always just make sure by cleaning any residue off, because depending, especially perhaps if you're using a water-based paint to paint with, then the paint may not take too well. So I would use a light detergent just to give it a little wipe over. If you're doing that to the control, obviously be careful, because there are some very delicate parts like the controller, the air brake handles and things like that. Now this is the actual control desk. Now you can see that. You can see very closely there. It's got everything. Everything you'll see if you've ever been in a Class 33. And a lot of these preserved railways have got them, and if you're very nice to people, they would let you go in, because if you're modelling this, you might want to know the colours of certain bits and pieces. I mean, it is a cab of a loco is a little bit mundane colour-wise, but if you want to get it exact, then, you know, and sometimes the colours do change on the era that you're painting as well. So, yeah, you might not be able to find the actual era, but there's enough stuff out there on the internet nowadays. I know a lot of people don't like the internet, but it saves you a lot of time. Sometimes you can just type in on Google and you can get an array of pictures, and hopefully there's something amongst that you want. So there we are on that. You can see the big box that sticks up there is the route indicator. You've got the back of the change end switch, you've got the back of the sunflower there, which is normally painted green, the casing of that. Some are painted black, and then obviously you've either got the black inside it when it's clear, the line, and you have yellow and black, which is why it's called a sunflower, when you have anything other than a green signal. So it could be 1, 2 yellows, or of course red. So there we are. That's the actual control panel that you get. Now, if you just take that as it is, I mean, it's all been done by measurement, but obviously it's virtually an exact fit at the mouth like this. Now, I mean, obviously, because this is 3D printed, there are some variations. So, yeah, that is from the measurement, that will fit like that. But obviously, it won't run all the way down to the front, because if you look along on the inside, there are some variations on the thickness. So you will need to address that. And what I've done is a kind of 50-50, taken some of the inside of the cab off and some of the thicknessing of the actual controls themselves. So I'm trying to delicately get this out. There we are, we're out. So on the sides, I've kind of rounded that off, so it's not as sharp, because if you're trying to push something along that's got two sharp edges, it's very difficult. So I've rounded them, and whilst I've rounded them, I've lost a lot of the thickness. I've lost this step there, so more or less brought that down to there, both sides, and kind of half the thickness of the bit where the straight air brake is as well. Do it very gently, because obviously it will snap off, but anything that does snap off will glue quite easily back on. But you know, take your time. There is no hurry. I mean, I want this to look good. I mean, I've been working on mine for a long time now, and one of the reasons is because I started off, I made up a desk. I spent hours of kind of marking out a piece of foam board, scribing round, shaping it. And then I thought, right, that's where it is. Worked out roughly by the photographs that I got. Downloaded some photos of a Class 33. to see where things come when you look through the window. Where can you see this? Can you see that? Some parts of the control panel, like this piece here, where all the fault switches are and all the dials, does actually come up above the window. So actually there's like a ledge the other side of the window. So it's things like that. You need to know what it looks like when you look through a full size one. You can see by this now, if I bring this one to the front, you can see how. So you can see the change hand switch, which is the big box there. The other bit in the middle, obviously there is a slight gap, but that'll all be taken up. And don't forget, the windows will need glazing, and that will be the route indicator box anyway. So by the time you've put something in there, put the number, letters, or white blinds, red blinds, whatever it is you're going to decide to put in there. Or you could actually perhaps make something to come out and went back in again, so that you could change the blinds, so that you could, for different things. I mean, sometimes you see a lot of things running around with red blinds in between a train, which theoretically in real life should never be, because the only red lights on any train or loco should always be at the back, because that's what the red light denotes, is the rear of a train or locomotive. So there we are. That's going back to my BR days. But anyway, so that's that really. Let me take out this one. I'll take the controls out. It does come out, because obviously it's got to come out because I want to paint it all. So, but you can see inside where I've kind of hacked it about. Now, any of you that know anything more about 3D printing, you will know that if you have a certain thickness of something, it has, you could just perhaps see a kind of a honeycomb structure inside. And what it does, it forms the base bit first, which would be the outside. Then it forms this honeycomb structure. And the reason for that is to cut down on the use of material. So you don't use so much filament. So it has an outside skin, then it has a honeycomb mesh for the thickness, and then it has another skin, an inner skin. So what's happened there at the front, where I've cut that away, and I've used a kind of like a milling tool for that. Yeah, there we are. In that rotary cutter, and I've just gone very gently with that, and it will just cut it away quite quickly, because you've got quite a thickness in there to get rid of, but you need it. And then what I did, I roughly got the height to the top of the straight air brake, and it scoops it out both sides. Are roughly the same. And like I say, the rest of the material then, I can show you the one that I have modified, which is here. Right, you can see that I filed quite a bit away on the sides to get that to fit. So there we are. That's it. So there's a lot of filing, and all I've done to get that down, and to do it quite quickly, because the stuff does come off very quickly, very powdery. I just used one of these kind of like Henry papers on a rubber wheel and took it away with that. Now, I did wear a mask. It's not too bad when you take the thick stuff off on this type of bit. You can do that quite easy. You can wear a mask. I mean, really, I should advise you to wear a mask all the time. I didn't on the thick stuff. But when you get down to this type of resin, I don't know what's in that resin. And with the fine powder, I shouldn't think it does you any good. So I got a mask, and I wore a mask the whole time. It does make a bit of mess. It's one of the reasons why I haven't filed that down whilst watching because all I get is dust in the camera and all the rest of it, which I don't really want to do. I'll do that more off screen, but I think most of you are good enough at modelling to know what it's going to look like. I can show you a little bit of the other tool, so I'll fit in that this other cutter, and I can just show you roughly how that goes if you really want to see something happening. But the other is very dusty, so it's not a good thing to do. These, by the way, I mean, you can buy very expensive ones of these. This is one, I think it either come from Aldi's or Lidl's. Very cheap. You get a box with loads of bits in there. I bought one or two other bits, bigger kind of slitting tools and things. It's very good for things like laying track, not so much with a Hornby free rail because you don't need it, but when I built a 7mm gauge railway, for cutting the track, you can get it down and you can just use a cutting tool and just go straight through. So that's it. It might be a bit noisy, and then all you do is go inside. You can see this. I have to kind of look at that and look at what I'm doing. That's it. And that will cut away the inside. So once you've started to get that all cut away, you can then start to rub down the actual control bit to fit. Even with a file, it's quite easy to file this, but it does go very, very fine powder. So my advice for that is well, not advice, just wear a mask, because I started off doing it and then I could see so fine, so I thought, right, no, stop, use a mask. But anyway, this is it really for the next part of my class 33 build. I'll put this back in, get it squared up to the end. That's it. You'll notice down, if you look down through the window, there is a little bit of a gap. I'm not sure how I'm going to do the glazing yet, so probably the next thing to do to make it look a bit prettier is I'll make up the bulkheads that go in. There's two bulkheads basically that goes across with an opening down the middle, and the idea, obviously, when you come through, you go through the door at the side and then you come into a little area, then you go, because on the bulkhead that goes down then is where the seat is, and that's the same both sides. And then when you turn around and face the centre of the loco, you've obviously got a window there and a door, and that takes you through to the engine room. So they're to be made, and then I should paint all of the controls. So of course, once you've fitted the cabs on, everything's got to have more or less been done. So you have to really work on a bit, because what you end up doing, I mean, I roughly sprayed the inside of these, so I'd strongly advise people not to. The only reason I've done it, it just makes it look neater while you're working on it. But you can see now when you look at it through the window that the control bits come up above, so they're not flush. Whereas, yeah, the tendency with a lot of models, you look at them and they put controls in, but the thing just goes flush across because it's probably easier for them to make. But the guy who done these, and I will put a link, he's a guy on eBay. I will put a link in the description so that you can order. So he made these especially for me, but as far as I know now, they are a part of his normal thing. He does lots of bits for, it's more O gauge. He seems to be more into O gauge, but it doesn't matter really. I did reply to somebody the other day because they said, oh, I put this in one of the gauge 1 things that I belong to in on Facebook. And the person said, oh, you got it in the wrong one. But what it was is the fact that I was using an O gauge one to show what it would look like if we could have that made in gauge 1. Well, I've succeeded in getting that made in gauge 1. So there we are. So anyway, just carry on following the progress of this. It is a bit slow, but I think anyone else that's building one of these, I mean, it's all right. I mean, I'm not retired. I'm still working. I could spend more time, but I usually have 2 or 3 projects on the go at one time. And the reason for that is, if you have to order something and wait for it to come, at least you could get on with something else. And it's not that I lose interest in any of it. I don't, because I can't wait to be running this. I mean, I have got the motors and the bogies on this chassis now. I mean, I could cobble it together and take it to the track that I belong to and run it round, but it just stops you really from really getting on. So it just detracts. Yeah, it's nice to see it running around, but yeah, it'd be nice to see it running around complete with the sound unit and all the other bits that I will hopefully put in. That's my intention. There is a guy out there, Fossworks, which I'll get hold of again and find out all the parts that I need. I did that with the bogies and the motors. I mean, I have converted stuff myself to run on radio control, but this guy deals with this all day long, and I don't confess to know a lot of the electronic things, but if you get bits that just plug together, it's so much easier. But I want this to look really nice, just because it's nice to build something. I don't think it's cheating by getting something like this and using it. Yeah, there are people out there that could make that themselves. Yes, I know. But I would sooner get this going and then have the pleasure of running it and having a rake of coaches or wagons or whatever running behind it and just, yeah, get the thing of watching it go round. I mean, I think we're all the same. I mean, I don't just do model railways. I do any kind of modelling, but railways I think is always, because it's something I worked on, but the thing is with railway modelling or whatever, it takes in so many other skills. And I think when you've got the final product done and it starts running round, you just sit back, and that's where the mindfulness bit comes in, really. It is relaxing. One, it's relaxing while you're modelling, simply because you're really engulfed into what you're doing. So anything else that may be going on in your life at the time, whilst you have an hour or 2 hours perhaps at the end of the day to do your modelling, that's your time and you can just get into it. I sometimes stick the radio on. I can't stick the radio on while I'm doing this because of the copyright, but I will stick the radio on. I come in this room on my own and put that on. When I did have a bit of an oval track, I'll even stick a loco on, and that'll just be thundering around in the background till either the coaches come off and it hooks round, or it comes off the track. Because that's the other thing with the Hornby free rail stuff that I do. It'll do 50 laps, and then suddenly it'll do something that it hasn't done. So you think, oh, that's weird. But anyway, that's the fun of owning that as well. But right. So I will press on and get the other cab done. And if anybody does want to perhaps see a bit more of the filing down, I don't think you'll need to. But if you did, or if you are actually doing this, you can put something in the comments and I will reply. And if it needed another video, then if I can, that is, I will make one, because I'm not the most technical of people when it comes to making videos and things. And you might see when I'm trying to get something towards a camera, I'm going the wrong way because, well, I've got to realise it's the wrong way round. But there you go. You learn as you go. And I don't edit anything. It's as it is. As I make it, is as you see it. And it'll always be like that, because it takes enough time to upload some of the stuff anyway. I will usually make a thumbnail, so I've got that bit done. But yeah, the most important bit is the modelling and listening to me waffle, I suppose. Anyway, I will see you very soon. So thank you very much for watching. And if you do like it, please subscribe. And if you have got any comments, please put the comment in and I will reply. Thank you.